why sit there until you die? Why would you sit in that situation knowing very well that this is toxic, this is abusive for me, but you sit there? Why are you sitting there? I don't know how far you've gone, but God is saying, come now, let us reason together. Greetings and welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you do not miss when a new video pops up, right? Now, keep in mind, guys, that you're now available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Overcast, as well as on Amazon Music. And you can be sure to follow us on any of those 6 different platforms, right? Now, also keep in mind, guys, that you are now available on YouTube, and this is to the podcast team. As you're listening to this, we are available on YouTube at Ashley Jarera, and you can be sure to follow us as well on that platform. Now today, guys, we're going to be talking about what you lost, the things that you lost. The Bible is telling us today that God is going to restore you, right? And that is our topic for today. Whatever it is that you lost, God is telling you today that He is going to restore it, and that is our message for today. So for you to find out more, if God is really going to restore the things that you lost, or maybe He's not going to restore the things that you lost, stick around to find out more. Now we're going to get our context for our message today from the book of 2 Kings chapter 8 verse 5 and 6, right? That's where we're going to get our message from. So the following verses read as follows. And it came to pass, as he was telling the king how he had restored a dead body to life, that, behold, the woman whose son he had restored to life cried to the king for her house and for her land. And Gehazi said, My lord, O king, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elisha restored to life. And when the king asked the woman, she told him. So the king appointed unto her a certain officer, saying, Restore all that was hers, and all the fruits of the field since the day that she left the land, even until now. So now you might be asking yourself, so how did we get to this point, right? Now, if you look at the previous episode, guys, where we talked about why sit there until you die. And we said sometimes when you go to a certain place, don't forget where you come from. If you did not watch that episode, I'll leave the link right here so that you'll be able to go and watch it, right? So now when we come to chapter 8, Elisha then speaks to this woman and tells her, you know what, there's a famine that is coming into the land. So rather you and your household and your son, take your belongings and leave the city. And now this is when this woman decides, you know what, I am going to leave the city because of the message that Elisha has said. Now this is the same woman, guys, that Elisha told, and she said, I will not let you go until something happens. And if you did not watch that episode as well, where we talked about hold on until something happens, I'll leave the link right here so that you can be able to watch it, right? But now in chapter 8, now it will come to the verses that we just read, and we come to verse 6 or verse 5 and verse 6, right? And now this woman comes to this point and she says, you know what? I'm back into the land, and all the things that I had have been taken. So now the king then comes to the point and says, you know what? I am going to restore you of everything that you have lost, even the fruits that came upon the land where you were not there, right? The king says, I am going to restore you of all those things. So then what is our message for today? Remember, the topic says that God is going to restore you all the things that you lost. Question, what famine made you to leave the presence of God, right? What famine made you to leave the presence of God? Now, if we look at this woman, it says in the Bible that the famine caused her to leave the city that she was staying in, right? But when it comes to you today, I have a question for you today. What famine has caused you to leave the presence of God? Some have lost jobs and they've looked back and say, you know what? Actually, there is no God. If there was a God, I was still going to be having my job right now. Some have lost loved ones, right? And they've lost the people that mattered the most to them. And they're asking God questions. And you say, you know what? God, where are you when I needed you the most, right? When my loved one passed on, right? Where are you? And we've now forsaken God. Some of us, we have lost all kinds of things in our lives, right? And we've come to a point where we now ask God, God, where are you? And we've even decided to say, you know what? God, you are not there. Some of us, we have lost the breadwinners, people who were responsible for taking care of us. Some of us, we have lost that in our lives, and we now started asking God, God, if you really cared about me, the breadwinner was not going to die. The breadwinner was not going to leave us, right? And we've started to ask questions to God, and we say, you know what, God, where are you? And these are the questions that we ask. Or even in some instances, guys, we now come to a point where people have even gossiped about you, right? And you come to a point, or maybe this might be in a church setting, where the church that you used to go to, people gossiped about you. And they start to say the things that you used to do before in the past. And then now you became discouraged, and you started to ask yourself and say, you know what, God, if you really cared, you would have fought for me when they gossiped about me, right? Some people, even they've been reminded of their sins of the past. People have been telling you that this is what you used to do, this is what you are, and all of that. And these things have discouraged you. And today we are asking the question, what famine has made you to leave the presence of God? Now there's good news, guys, to all of this. God is saying to you today in Isaiah chapter 1 verse 18, and you find this, God says that, come now, let us reason together. I don't know how far you have gone, right, out of the city. I don't know how far you had been gone. Was it for 7 years? This woman was gone for 7 years, guys, and her land was taken and all of that. But God is saying to you today, I don't know how long you have been gone away from God. I don't know how long it has been that you have been away from the presence of God. I don't know how far your sins have been, right? But God is telling you today that, come now, let us reason together. And you find this in Isaiah chapter 1 verse 18, where he says, come now, let us reason together. Even though your sins be like scarlet, they will be white as snow. Even though they be red as crimson, right? God says they shall be as wool. And God is telling you today that, come now, let us reason together. And if you go again, guys, and we go to Job chapter 42 verse 12, the Bible then tells us that Job had more in his latter days than what he had in the beginning, right? So this is then the message to you. God is going to restore you of the things that you lost. But if you come back and you reason again with God, God is saying to you today, come now, let us reason together. I don't know how far you have gone from God. I don't know how far reaching your sins have been, that you think to yourself now, you know what? Maybe my sins are just too great for God to even understand. Maybe what I have done in my life is too big for God to understand. But God is saying to you today, come now, let us reason together. Whatever the enemy took away from you, God is saying to you today that I will restore you, just like what he did in Job's life. He says that he had more than what he had in the beginning. In his later days, he had more than what he had in his beginning. And today God is saying, whatever you did in the past, come now, let us reason together. As the year is beginning, right, as the year has just started, God is saying to you today that, come now, let us reason together. And that is just our message for today. Now the choice lies with you, guys, whether you want to come now or you still want to postpone it. But remember, there's never a time where it's too early or it's too late. But now is the perfect time. If you are hearing this message, it is directed to you, and God is talking to you today, and he's saying, come now, let us reason together. I don't know how far you have gone, but God is saying, come now, let us reason together. May God bless you. Do not die in sin. You don't know what tomorrow holds. You might even die tonight. You might even die tomorrow. But do you want to die in your sin?